welcome to the Borderline Too Much Fun podcast. I'm Mike.
Hey, it's Dan.
And today we are talking about, Dan, I think we gotta change something. This isn't working. There's too much distance here.
All right,
Let's go. That's better. This is better. We're closer now.
Let's do it.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the K-Zoom Borderline Too Much Fun podcast. For real this time. Again, my name is Mike.
I'm Dan.
And we're here today to talk about why it might benefit you to work with a local marketing agency. So, Dan, we had a little fun at the intro there with the Zoom call into the video podcast, just kind of show a little bit of distance. And it wasn't working. Like, it probably could have been fine. We've become really adapted to Zoom calls and things like that. But just at a baseline, what do you think is the importance of being present as a marketing company with the clients that K-Zoom serves?
Yeah. I think being present with somebody, period, is valuable.
That's right. So I agree. I agree.
It's like, imagine having tea or lunch with somebody virtually. It's like, it just doesn't work.
Doesn't hit the same.
So I think conversation across the table with somebody, when it comes to marketing, it's the number one place where I feel like there's so much value in an in-person conversation versus a virtual one is when ideas are being generated, like a brainstorming session. If I can be in the room with somebody and with a team, like I feel like ideas just build and there's energy with that versus like, let me wait for the person to stop talking and then I'll raise my hand to jump in with the idea, and you're like waiting and you're not there and part of a conversation.
Yeah, there's more barriers involved, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have become more adept, given what's happened the last several years, to work through those barriers.
Yeah.
But I think of, open spaces, things can flow more naturally. When you're in the presence of somebody else having a conversation over a meal or talking about marketing, it removes a lot of those barriers, and more ideas, like you said, can be generated and flow more freely.
I think that K-Zoom does use technology, virtual calls, different things like that really well to connect with clients, with each other. But in some ways, we've decidedly made a direction at K-Zoom for availability and immediacy. Mm-hmm. So it is one of our top customer-facing core values, but we also apply it internally to our team. That availability and immediacy for our team, having it kind of an open office concept, it generates, I feel like, so much more connection with each other, and then momentum with the teamwork and the ideas that we have versus people being in different places constantly, or even partially. Yeah. So it's a value that we hold that it drives everything that we do, starting first with our team.
Yeah, and I know I've heard you talk about just how much you want K-Zoom to be invested in the flourishing of Kalamazoo. That, hey, we're a company that's here and invested here and wanting to see the businesses in this area grow and flourish and be a part of that.
The word we use for the vision of that is connected.
Yeah.
And I feel like just saying it's so simple. It's a common word that we know, but as we've really defined that as a team, I feel like there's so much depth to that word and what it means to be connected or connected well, and we really want the K-Zoom team to truly be connected to our community, not as an advertising tool, not as like meeting relationships and having connections now so that our business can grow, but truly being connected in a way that we're actually partnering with our community. We're serving our community. We're a part of it.
Yeah. Could you share some of what that looks like?
Yeah. I guess for the K-Zoom team, we really value being at different events in the community. Some of those might be networking events, but they might be literally just somebody else's celebration or being a part of it. Sometimes it does extend to social media and wanting to be present with what's going on. But then also it goes to other levels where our team has a commitment to serving in our community 4 times a year, not with a trade for video or sponsorship, but literally physically serving somewhere. So those are the types of connections that we enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even we talked about set this up with a local marketing company, but I like that this is turned more to a present marketing company. That we are that KZoom is a present company, present in whatever clients' marketing is going on, but present also in other spaces. It's not uncommon for someone from the KZoom team to run into a client or someone from the wedding days and to continue those relationships and say, oh, hey, we've done something together in this space.
Right.
And can you speak anything to that and what that's been like for you?
Here's a weird turn on that question or whatever. I think you'll like it, but I almost get competitive with that for our local community. Like, I want to see any company from a striker to a small business win because we're in this, like, we are a representation of this area and we're going to bring our strength to their strength. We want to see them win and make that impact on the world. So I don't know, it's just like you and Jordan have recently traveled to California to assist Stryker with some live streaming. And I don't see that just as like, oh, great job, great client. It's like we want to come to bat with them.
Yeah.
And because they're like, I know the roots of Homer Stryker from about an hour from here, southeast, and just like some of the gravity of the weight of our community. Like, I know that he was a farmer who rose up with an invention in the medical field. And then what the different generations, even through the Stryker family, have done and how they've poured back into our community. When we serve Stryker, I don't know, like it's more than just a project. You want to go to bat for the people that are
the
our
hometown.
It's our hometown. Like, we're gonna play ball.
When KZoom goes and does the video, when KZoom does the live stream for Stryker, there's a bit of like, hey, they're bringing the home squad.
Yeah,
like,
there are some deep roots.
Yeah,
so I don't know, like I get competitive to want to win for our people.
Yeah, the home field advantage on the road.
Yeah, sometimes that's not just business or client based. It's also nonprofit and impact based. It's like there's so much more than we can do that has ripple effects here.
Yeah.
That in the end, it's like, I don't want to look back on a career that, okay, we were just successful financially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what were all the different touches where we made an impact on individuals, we made an impact, and often it's not just advancing your thing. I loved just supporting somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, what's their cause? What's their mission? And at KZoom, that's our mission statement, is to advance the greatest causes. So sometimes that means literally just coming behind what is their mission, what is their thing, and supporting it.
Yeah, and when a company like KZoom is present, they're able to actually do that for real. Like, I think, generosity financially is great, but there is something different. Like, okay, my hands are in on this to help push this forward.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And I might not have 5 days to contribute or whatever, but like, we can give something.
Yeah, you can show up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the marketing side of things a little bit. What are some of those benefits when it comes to like maybe speaking the local language or understanding the demographics that a company in this area might need that Kalamazoo or that KZoom can really directly speak to?
Yeah. I'm a huge believer in local, period. I think that you remember this from the State of Economic Development just in January this year. Just the gravity of individually supporting each other, just like almost the one-to-one connections, but then amplified. And I believe that Kalamazoo is this area that has been and can continue to make these improvements of literally supporting local. So in preparation for this, we talked about just the tax basis, right? When you support a local company and that money is spent once here locally versus, let's say, Amazon. We love Amazon, but like, if it's spent here locally, those taxes are going to have a ripple effect here where it's seen 7 times over, spent and invested in our community. So I love the concept of supporting local and even stepping out of our way to find that local expert and that local connection to invest in here. And that doesn't just have the tax basis of building up our local environment with that tax base, but also just think of the relational trust of like people knowing each other, those connections to be able to rely on somebody that has that expertise when you need it.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to the ability to have quicker connections and to be present. Those are the things that build trust, build relationship. And it doesn't mean that, KZoom works with people who aren't in the local area, but it acknowledges that there are just greater barriers there, right?
Yeah.
It can be a little trickier to work with time zones, and we go through whatever hoops we need to jump to still try to bring that availability and immediacy to them, to be like their local marketing company, even if we can't actually be there in person. But I just hear that the more touch points you can have with someone, the quicker you can build trust, the deeper you can go, and then the further you can go together as well.
Yeah. On the point of serving somebody who's local and right there and present, one of the biggest pain points we hear from a client who's coming to us that has a marketing need and there's some pain with it is that they have been working with an agency, a company, a service, and it's somewhere that's not here. And I just feel like the depth of that local relationship, you have this reputation that's just really solid. And you're going to step up to the plate even more to maintain that relationship because this is somebody that's local. And so often with media, I mean, it happens once a month. We have a new potential client coming and saying, we got burned on this because we were referred to them or we saw their track record from out of town, but the relationship just kind of grew distant and we just didn't feel a connection with them. And then there's this loss or distance that's created over time. And so I love the opportunity and privilege to build that relationship with a high amount of presence, relationship, trust, and done locally.
Yeah. I love it. It's inspiring and encouraging, and it's not a conversation that I think a lot of people are. Well, let me change that. I think it's a conversation a lot of people are having. I don't know that it's something that people are willing as much to pay the cost to do that. And in my experience here, I've seen that at KZoom that we'll go that mile to we will be like their neighbor. To be present, to go that extra mile. KZoom's going to show up in any way that we can. And it's admirable.
There's a model within marketing companies across the board that as they're growing, if they can bring in 10 new jobs every quarter, but they lose 2, and the 10 jobs that they're going after are a little bit bigger and better, it's almost like this huge growing snowball, but they're fine losing people because they still have 8 people further than they did before. I am super turned off by that long-term strategy. I want to make sure that KZoom would serve everybody for the long term and be that support with where they need that help versus this concept of as we grow, we can let a couple people go and filter them. And there is the whole conversation about a bad client or a mismatch there or whatever. And
it happens.
You do lose clients, but I don't want to on account of us.
Or on account of KZoom didn't live up to the availability and the immediacy, the core values. Those are the pay to plays here. And that's something I've seen you demonstrate, and I've seen this team show up for time and time again. So Dan, wrapping things up here, what if you could just summarize? I think we've kind of really nailed this well, but benefits of considering a local agency, particularly if you're here in the Kalamazoo, Portage, Southwest Michigan area.
I think there are a lot of benefits, but the number one that kind of comes out for me is in-person contact with a team in an ongoing way. I love that a team of 3, 4, or 5 people, depending on what somebody signed up for, literally you can have contact with that entire team on a monthly basis, and those all-star players that are making those touches, you have an interaction and a conversation with them with consistency over time. Where that's where the relationship really builds on both sides.
I can't say this because it's not ours, but I wanted to, like a good
Yeah.
someone who lives next door to you.
Really?
KZoom is there.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same idea, or
Love that.
lend me some sugar. I am your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's kind of KZoom wants to be the neighbor that
Yeah.
you come and say,
Right.
Can you give us a hand? It's like, of
Yeah.
course, we'll be right over.
Right. This is a weird thought, but just in the last week, there was a local media company who would, in most any traditional place or time in history, be seen as a competitor. They reached out and just asked a question about how are you thinking future forward about AI, and we had a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And just that closeness of being able to chat with a competitor and to have commonality and to benefit each other. Like I believe that Kalamazoo is a unique place that way. And it's also, I think it's great to be able to have connections with people to just build the other person up.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. There's enough space, right?
Right.
There's enough space and we can see each other win.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up.
All right.
Thanks so much for checking out the KZoom Borderline Too Much Fun podcast. If you're in the Kalamazoo area and are looking for someone to team up in pursuing marketing needs, reach out to KZoom at kzoom.com. If you are not in the Kalamazoo area and want to know what it's like to have KZoom as that local neighbor and bring that service to you wherever you are at the best of our ability, do the same thing. And we'll see you again next time.